Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today and welcome to our webinar on SMB trends and the new B2B customer journey. My name is Lisa Lincoln and I'm the Director of Client Services here at SMB Group, and I'm joined by Lori McCabe, founder and partner here, who will be our host. Just a quick note, technical note, we were having some issues with GoToWebinar this morning. Apparently the site was having issues, but we're live and hopefully we'll be connected for the next hour, but if not, we will make sure to follow up with everyone via email to reschedule the webinar. As many of you know, Lori McCabe brings more than 20 years experience in the IT industry to her current role at SMB Group and has earned widespread recognition for her insights into small and medium businesses and technology adoption. She's been a winner of the Small Business Influencer Award for the last 4 years consecutively. You can learn more about Lori via her bio on our website. Before I turn things over, just a couple of quick reminders that you'll all be in listen mode throughout the webinar. Please use the question tab to ask any questions that you might have. Once Lori wraps up the presentation, she'll answer as many as time permits. And again, after we're done, we'll send you a quick thank you with a copy of the slide deck and a link to the recorded webinar. With that, I will turn things over to Lori.
Yeah, you know, I think we are having a little bit of a GoToWebinar issue. We're trying to move the slide deck here, and if you just give us a minute, we're just going to put you on mute and make sure we can. Okay, all right, great, thanks. Okay, it seems to be working. So yeah, hi, and thanks again for joining us. You know, before I go over the agenda that we'll be covering today, I just wanted to quickly tell you why we're doing this webinar in the first place. Really the reason is that so many vendors in technology are interested in selling to SMBs or selling more to them, and for obvious reasons. You know, it is an enormous market. Many areas of the market are underpenetrated, and they're really ripe for new technologies and solutions. But over the years, we've seen many vendors flail around and even fail when it comes to successfully reaching and selling and serving SMBs. And arguably, it's getting even more difficult as the SMB landscape changes and more vendors compete for those SMB customers. So we put today's presentation together as a high-level primer just to help guide you on some of the key dynamics, rules for sellers. And if we have time, and you know, I'm not sure how much time we'll have given how many questions we have, but if we do have time, we'll do a quick summary. If not, we'll just go right to the question and answer and the discussion. So let's just start with a few high-level refresher basics about SMBs to get all of us on the same page. You know, first, we've got some really good news. We just recently wrapped up our 2015 Routes to Market study, which we do every year. It was fielded just in June, so the data here is fresh. And as you can see, SMBs are very bullish, both on their own business growth and on their spending plans for technology. As you can see on the chart, almost 70% expect to see their revenues rise in the next 12 months, and 53% indicate they plan to increase tech spending. And as you can see, you know, these are up from our 2014 survey, you know, pretty significantly. Now, as important, SMBs increasingly see technology as very intertwined with business success. If you look at this slide, you see that technology solutions help us to significantly improve business outcomes, and technology solutions help us to run the business better. 62% of small businesses and 79% of medium businesses are really viewing technology in a very favorable light in terms of how it will impact their business. And they see that direct connection between technology and business success. And these numbers, when we look back on older surveys, have been rising. The percentage of what I would call SMB Luddites is dropping, and I think technology is just becoming more a part of the fabric of the business for most SMBs. But while that all makes your job easier, it doesn't make the job of marketing and selling and servicing SMBs easy. And that's because the SMB market has been, it always has been, and continues to be a very fragmented market. It's a heterogeneous market, not a homogeneous one. And there are so many ways to segment the market, from size to industry to age of business, business sophistication and resources, tech sophistication, resources, attitudes, etc. So, you know, the problem is many vendors say their target market is SMBs. You know, some a little better. They say target market is small business or medium businesses. But for the most part, a lot of vendors kind of leave it at that. But if you take this approach and you try to paint them with a broad brush stroke, it's pretty certain that SMB decision makers are going to tune you out. You really need to know who in the SMB market you're really going after and what matters most to these customers. And then you can align your solutions, your pricing, marketing, service accordingly. Now, we don't have time to go into every segmentation nuance today because there are so many, but you know, just want to show you size as an example of just how different SMB's concerns can be. Because many vendors do use size as a proxy in the SMB market. And as you can see here, even with this most basic size segmentation, it highlights some really big differences. You know, as businesses grow and they become more complicated, their business challenges change. Smaller businesses are really preoccupied with what it takes to grow the business, keep the lights on, get new customers, you know, pay the bills. As they grow from small to medium, though, the business growth and profitability, they're still way up there. They're still extremely important. But they're also, you know, these businesses, they grow, they're getting more complex. Maybe they're introducing more products and services, probably hiring more people, maybe going into new markets or countries, and things just get more complicated. And so a lot of the issues that weren't really big issues for them when they were small start becoming more of a challenge as they expand their businesses and grow. Likewise, small and medium businesses also share a lot of the same concerns in the technology space. Similar percentages of small and medium business respondents indicate that challenges like security and containing technology costs and keeping their systems up and running, getting better insights from their data are among their top priorities. But just like with the business challenges, technology challenges also change as SMBs grow. I won't go through all of the big differences here, but here are a couple that really catch my attention. So for instance, you see right on the top, 42% of small businesses compared to 31% of medium businesses say that figuring out how different technology solutions can help my business is one of their top 3 tech challenges. You know, this shows it's even tough for many medium businesses to sort through all the options and buzzwords and hype out there. But I think it's fair to say that for many small businesses, they're quite simply like deer in the tech headlights. They know they've got some problems. They think there are solutions out there that are probably relevant, but they really don't have the time or resources to figure out what that solution might be that would fit their business. And, you know, another thing that's a differential here, and I think related to this, is that about 30% of small businesses compared to 20% of medium businesses say lack of IT staff and skills is one of their top challenges. Not surprising because, you know, we know that only about less than a quarter of small businesses have full-time dedicated IT staff. And this compares to about the 85% of medium businesses that have full-time IT staff. So there's a lot of other differences based just on this really simple segmentation, but the bottom line again is that, depending on who you're targeting in SMB, the way you develop your offerings and go to market really matters. And finally, just one more thing I want to cover. It's my pet peeve. We talk to so many vendors out there targeting SMB, and when we get in the conversation and take it the next layer, they say they're targeting the fast growth startup part of the SMB market. Well, of course you are. This is an obvious choice because technology is really foundational to a fast growth startup. This is really the low-hanging fruit. These are the people that are most likely to be excited and interested in technology. And, therefore, the innovation message that a lot of so many tech vendors lead with, this is really appealing to this segment. But, vendors beware. These SMBs are really just a very tiny slice of the pie compared to businesses that identify as mature businesses. So, the SMB is backed by venture capital financing. It's really the exception, not the norm. And so while you can successfully court the fast growth startups, just remember, A, they're very rare, B, you'll have lots of competition, and C, if your message to the general SMB market or other parts of the SMB market that are more mature business, if your message is always focused on getting the attention of the unicorns, it's likely to fall on deaf ears among the majority of those mature businesses who are likely to be more interested in knowing that you'll take the time to understand what their business goals are and how you can help them. Okay, well, I've skimmed the surface, just very barely skimmed the surface on some of the basics of the SMB market. Now, if the implications of the complexity of the market aren't complicated enough to sort through, we also have to deal with the fact that the buying journey for the SMB decision makers is really undergoing some big changes. As the saying goes, the digital revolution changes everything. It used to be the internet changes everything, but now there's so many things under the digital umbrella. Internet, social, mobile, analytics, everything. And I know that every single person on the call understands this, and that all of these technologies have really put the power in the hands of the buyer, whether it's an SMB buyer or any other kind of buyer. It gives that buyer more information that they need on their own. They can get everything much more easily. And it also, most importantly, maybe really changes the buyer's expectations of the vendor in solution, marketing, sales, service, whatever. So in this section, I'll get into some of the specifics as to, how this journey is playing out more specifically in the SMB market. We're going to talk about what's going on in the SMB buyer heads and how they're behaving from the exploration phase when they first start kind of figuring out, what's my problem and getting information and trying to figure out what the approach should be to solve the problem, through evaluation where they're going to get advice and guidance, and selection when they're trying to figure out what to buy and then to actually complete the transaction. And last but definitely not least, service and support, where they want the support they need to help them get the most value from the solution. Explore. Okay, what are they really trying to accomplish in this phase? In this part of the journey, they're really trying to get their head around the problem they think they need to solve. They've got to do that before they move on to how they can actually solve it. They have a problem, and they think technology may have the answer. And sometimes, they can kind of clearly identify what the problem is, but I think more often they're looking for help just to articulate it. So you know, they may be, for instance, realizing that they're using too many different point solutions and spending too much time trying to reconcile data from different solutions. You know, it doesn't matter really what function. It could be HR, marketing, finance, whatever. They know they've got a drag on the business, so they go out and they start trying to put a handle on the problem. They can end up getting even more confused. So basically what they're doing with so much information available is casting a wider and wider net just to figure out where to start with help. And as you can see here, there are many, many different sources they're going to. And, you know, when I look at this compared to a few years ago, it's really changed. I mean, it used to be, you know, the top two were always in there as important. And web search has always been important, but we see a lot of the other things like webinars and podcasts and blogs and certainly the online journals and magazines and things like that really moving up. They're just becoming more important information sources. And because it's so much easier to do more research on their own, they're waiting longer to connect with vendors on the sales front. They're looking, you know, more to the online content to help. 88%, in fact, say online content plays a major to moderate role in selecting their vendor and their product. And I think, you know, it's just important to keep in mind that the right content can help SMBs in that exploration phase better define their problem and understand alternatives. And that gives them what they need to move on to the next phase, the evaluation phase. You know, by the time they get to the evaluation phase, most SMBs need help in narrowing down all the different choices out there. You know, just think about it. In any given area, there are likely to be tens or hundreds of solutions to pick from. And many vendors in any given category have very similar positioning and messaging. And take it from me, we know that because most of them kind of tromp through our doors. Now, the problem is most SMBs don't have a lot of time or manpower to kick the tires on more than a couple of solutions. So they need to turn to advisors to get help to narrow things down. And word of mouth from tech advisors and business advisors, you know, that's always been a top advice source and guidance source for SMBs. What we're finding now in this digital age is, in addition to these physical world advisors, they're also turning to online communities and associations and social media sites for advice as well. Now, why are they choosing the specific people they choose to help them in this evaluation phase? Well, you know, not to date myself, but to quote Billy Joel, it's always been a matter of trust. And I think trust will probably always be the top criteria. Really, they want people in places where they feel their general needs and concerns are already well understood, so that they can have a conversation and talk to people who have expertise, not only about the specific issue they want to solve for, but their broader motivations and their goals and concerns. And they want to speak to people in the language they speak, not in marketing or tech jargon. So first and foremost, and like I said, probably forever, they need to trust the advisor as a source. And the qualities that align with competence and experience, you know, not only do they round out their top reasons to pick an advisor, but I think when you think about it, all of these things are very interrelated, and everything circles back to that trust factor, because expertise and experience help create trust, and you really have to provide these to be credible. In the evaluation phase, another thing that's top of mind for SMBs is they want assurance that they're making a good decision. After all, their neck is on the line. Maybe their business is on the line if there's a business owner. So at this point, they're they do look at a lot of very pragmatic and measurable factors and take those into account. And I've highlighted some of those with the green bars, like pricing and ease of use, high ratings by analysts, etc. But in addition to those more kind of pragmatic or measurable assurances, there are a lot of subjective personal things that come into play, which I've highlighted in gold, such as maybe having worked with a vendor before, a strong brand reputation, local service and support capabilities, things like personal attention during the sales experience, and customer references, especially from customers that they perceive of as being similar to themselves. You know, in fact, I recently read an article in B2B Community that said even when buyers see the value of a specific solution to their business, only 14% perceive a real difference in the supplier offerings from different vendors. So the article went on to say that 71% of B2B buyers who can see a personal value will buy a product. So you really need to go beyond the kind of pragmatic, measurable claims and make the connection personal to make the short list. Because buyers are going to be much more likely to be motivated by some of these more softer attributes. I think many of the same themes we've talked about continue through to the selection phase. You know, when it's time to make the decision, you see the top 3 things that SMB want are vendors that can clearly articulate the business value they'll get from the solution, not the features, functions, speeds, and feeds. They want a consistent omni-channel experience. They want to buy it their way. You know, once they're ready to buy, they want a quick, easy, convenient way to purchase. And finally, you know, they want vendors that can demonstrate great support before the sale with things like real-time support to get all their questions answered. I think of it kind of like taking the car for a test drive. And in fact, I think we had a respondent for this question that wrote in that that fast, easy access to pre-sales information will make or break the sale for them. As I said, it just kind of foreshadows their future experience as a customer with that vendor. Now, as we've touched on, you know, they want to feel that you have their back. Risk avoidance is key. They don't want to make mistakes. They're investing a lot of time or money. So after the sales, they want to know the vendor can cover the bases, provide them with that competent, accessible support and service. And, you know, they want it both on site if they need it and remotely if that works better or more efficiently. You know, the bottom line is they want the things that will ensure that they'll get the value and the business results that drove them to seek a solution in the first place. Finally, you know, service karma. Service karma will come back to help or hurt you, you know, exponentially more now than ever because of the digital and social age we're living in. So good service and support fuels repeat business and referral business. If they're happy, they'll buy more from you and you'll share those great experiences. But if they've got a bad experience, you know, they can cause a lot of collateral damage. As you can see here, 48% of people that had a negative experience told more than 10 people about it. So, you know, it's not surprising that a lot of experts say that by 2020, the customer service experience will actually overtake product and price as the key differentiator for brands. So we just went through some of the ways in which the SMB buyer journey is changing. What does that mean for the technology vendors that want to sell and serve SMB customers? What are the new rules? Well, first of all, know that competition for SMB mindshare and market share is growing. This was a CMO Council study. This data is from a CMO Council study that was done in 2014. It's pretty definitive. 87% of marketers believe the SMB market will increase in value over the next 3 years. 95% say the SMB segment is very or moderately important to their business. And 64% of CMOs plan to increase their SMB focus. So as tech vendors, you need to find ways to work smarter to earn SMB dollars with this growing competition. Where to start? The place to start is simple. Know your SMB customers. So many times we talk to vendors, both newbies and established veteran companies, who want to build business with SMBs, but too often they're really not very clear about the type of SMB customer they're targeting and why. They have a solution ready to launch, but too often they're trying to, fit a square peg into a round hole, which doesn't work. In the best of both worlds, you know your target segment before you go to market. All too often in our tech world, you've already built the solution. Now you need them to come. So you'll have to scramble a little bit more to see which segments of the market are the best fit, because one size never fits all in SMB. And when you segment, you want to segment not only on size and industry, but on some of those attitudinal things, such as their business sophistication and technology attitudes, even business models, and age and phase of business. Sure, you should definitely do research, and if you do, we would love it if you come to us to help you do it. But you also need to talk to these SMBs, whether at trade shows, association events, or on the phone. You need to pick their brain and understand how they think and how they talk about their needs and their concerns. Because the deeper your understanding, the clearer the path you'll have to create the personalized kind of campaigns and offerings that are going to resonate with them. So just remember, again, you need to really tune in to the relevant SMB customer segment, or they will tune out. Now, once you know who you're talking to and why, you still need to rise above the noise of all those other vendors clamoring for that SMB segment or customer's attention. To do this effectively today, I really think content has to satisfy at least one of these criteria. It has to be educational, thought-provoking, or inspirational. And that means it's content that will engage, it will spark conversations, and help those SMB customers or prospects, I guess at this stage, see you as a source of information and advice, not as a product pusher. If you do the work we talked about on the last slide, you really get to know the customers you want to attract, you will have the right frame of mind and frame of reference about what kind of content will resonate. And likewise, and as important, what they're going to just see as useless. You also want to take advantage of all this digital transformation and make everything you do as easy to share as possible on any social media platform or channel they want to share it on. That just really helps you amplify your message at little or no cost. And when it comes to creating all this content, sure, you're going to want to do some of it yourself, but you probably can't do it all alone. And as a matter of fact, you probably shouldn't, because we have a lot of research. This is just one, but third-party validated research reports and studies are the most influential with B2B customers. Now, I know we talked about trust a lot, and trust can seem like a big, soft, fuzzy concept, but if you understand the customers you're trying to reach, you can actually build trust with good, relevant, valuable content. So just a few ideas, things that you should be doing along the different stages of a nurturing campaign. You want to be painting the picture, helping them get to that big aha moment. You want to give them very, very concrete understanding of how different solutions can impact business outcomes with things like case studies and resources for businesses like those you're going to target. And definitely, it's a little hard to do sometimes because there's so many of them, but create or even join a community for ideas and interaction. And become a visible advocate for SMBs with different campaigns or events or contests rather, that can inspire and help them to be more successful. You know, and then the final thing is, think about how you can get more bang for your buck. You know, we're all bombarded with information every day. So I would say think Depression era. Recycle everything. Turn your white paper into a blog series. Turn the ebook into a webinar. Create a Twitter campaign with snippets and charts from a longer piece, or host a hangout to discuss the results of a survey. Really, nothing should go to waste, and it probably, you'll have to repurpose it a lot of times before anybody's going to see it twice in this day and age. You know, having a solution with standard bells and whistles in any given category is table stakes, and so is providing clear information about your product or service. Yet, there's so many vendors where you really have to go on a hunt to figure out even just basic things like pricing. So those are table stakes, but you need to make sure that information is clear and easy to find. You know, the real differentiation then comes from, again, the things that increase their trust that their investment in this solution will really pay off for them. So you also need to make it very clear to them why, for instance, you're easier to work with. How does your support team deliver exceptional service? How can you make sure that the solution is personalized and customized so that it's just right for their business? And to me, the ultimate differentiator today for SMBs is simplicity, as this great quote from Steve Jobs alludes to. You know, SMBs need tech solutions to get their businesses ahead, but, you know, a lot of us have tried too many things that just end up wasting time and money and don't deliver the desired results. So at the end of the day, you want to be able to give them a very sophisticated, powerful solution, and if you make it easier to use than your competitors, I think it's game over and you win. You know, as you go through this, the phases, you know, and they get to that evaluation, you know, this is more the kicking the tire phase. And at this point, you know, again, remember, service starts before the sale. And at this point, the expertise is really at the top of the value chain. You want to make sure you're providing objective information through different channels that lets them more easily do things like weigh pros and cons, make sure they have all the right buying criteria and considerations in mind. They've gone through a good checklist. And you probably also want to provide things to help them persuade other stakeholders that this is going to be a beneficial investment for the business. So at the end of the day, you know, you want to be helping them narrow down their options and feel more confident in their decision. Omnichannel. I think we mentioned before, SMBs want to buy the way they want to buy, whether it's online, which is more and more often, or, you know, over phone with an inside sales team, or even, you know, with the traditional feet on the street. But you need to make it easier for them to buy it the way they want it, and take the friction and any kind of differences that you can out of the buying process, regardless of what channel. Since all evidence points to the fact that self-service is becoming a preferred mode for them to buy, you really want to make sure you have a self-service system in place that automates and personalizes the order taking. And, at the end of the day, the goal is to make it easy for customers to buy where, when, and how they want. And, I know we haven't talked too much about sales, but their role is still important. It's just that it's changing as the SMB buyers do more research on their own. So salespeople today just have to add value differently than they did in the past. You've got to, I think, first of all, make sure that they share the same knowledge in terms of SMB segmentation and requirements and behaviors as the marketing team. And then you want to give them training, make it easier for them to be more of a consultant and less of an order taker. And really make sure that those sales resources are being used when the customer needs them. So those would be things like price negotiation and if it is a more complex or customized purchases. And also that salesperson should help be able to assure them that they're going to get the value they need at the end. And last but not least on this, it's really a two-way street. Salespeople are probably talking to customers a lot more than marketing people. So make sure that you're capturing their input and you're incorporating it into your marketing strategy. And finally, service and support, I think it is the ultimate differentiator. And it starts with pre-sales, as we've talked about. What else does it look like? It's proactive. It's personalized. It's easy for that SMB customer to access, whether they want to access it on the phone or over a live chat or via email or walking into your office. It's fast. It doesn't hang them up and send them into some kind of voicemail purgatory. And it listens, and it understands, and it adapts to do things better and strives to be exceptional. And I love this quote, which basically just says, you'll never have a product or price advantage again. They can be easily duplicated, but a strong customer service culture can't be copied. So with that, I think we're running a little bit short on time. So as I said, I think we'll go right to the Q&A. There are a couple of summary slides in here, and you will get these when you get a copy of the deck. But I think for now, we'll turn it over and get to your questions. Lisa?
Thanks, Laurie. That was great. Just a quick reminder, folks, you can use the GoToWebinar tool to questions. Getting them back. My apologies. To add questions, and we'll get to as many as we can today. Laurie, earlier in the session, when we were talking about a premium on clarity and consistency, one of the questions was, what might be some examples of companies that do that well?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think there are lots of companies that do that well. I think that one that comes to mind is Apple. They're very consistent. Whether you go into that Apple store, you go online, you engage them in a real-time chat, you're getting a very personalized, responsive experience. And the people, when you're on an online chat and then you might have a problem and you have to go to the store because it's something, it's a hardware thing that has to be fixed, they have that record. It all goes over all those systems, and it's very easy to do business with them.
Terrific. Thanks, Laurie. Another question that came up, do you see any specific employee size breaks where business and technology requirements shift?
Yeah, well, as I said, size is really just one of the segmentation variables that you really want to take into account. But we do see some that are pretty significant. So one is when a company hits maybe in the 40s to 50 employees, and they're really at a point where they're growing enough in terms of the number of employees they have that maybe some solutions that they never even had before they have to start putting into play, like things for employee time management or a more automated kind of payroll processing system or something like that. The other big break is when we see is when companies hit, I don't know, a couple hundred, 200, 300 people. At this point, in a lot of cases, they have a lot of the solutions, you know, for different functional areas, whether it's, you know, financial or HR or, you know, sales and marketing or whatever. But a lot of times they've really been trying to stretch what they had when they were still a smaller company and make it fit as they grow. And it's just kind of like putting on that T-shirt that shrank on the wash. It just doesn't cover anything anymore.
Thanks, Lori. I know that T-shirt well. Okay, maybe one more question. As more boomers retire and more millennials become decision makers, how will that change the SMB buying journey? Ooh, good question.
Well, I think it'll just put the SMB, all the changes that we talked about, it just put them on steroids because, you know, all the indicators show that you know, the younger workers, millennials, they are much more prone to want to use things like self-service, whether it's for research or buying. They're much more interested in doing research on their own, and they're very interested in using all the different social channels for advice and information. So I think the main thing is that you know, it'll just really accelerate some of the changes we're already seeing in this customer journey.
That's great, Lori. Let me just double check, see if we have any additional questions. Not at this time. Oh, sorry, yes. Someone must have joined a little late. Again, don't forget, folks, we will definitely send you a copy of the slide deck and the link to see the full recorded webinar if you joined us after the start of the session. Lori, thank you again. Great session. Attendees, thank you so much for joining us. We are looking forward to doing this periodically, and we'll definitely let everyone know when the next topic comes up. We're happy to follow up with anybody. If you have additional questions after we close the session, please feel free to connect with any one of us. You will have a link coming shortly. And thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to talking to you at the next webinar. Have a great day.